if we're here for no reason, right? Which is kind of what I believe. Like, I don't know what we're here for, but like, if we're here for basically no reason, you only have one life. We know there's no do-overs. Why not live with extreme confidence, extreme self-worth, live whatever way you want, even though society doesn't agree with it, as long as everything continues to go good for you?
Winners use drugs.
Okay, one thing I wanted to ask you right off the start was, have you ever had the desire to, like, do you ever wrestle with the idea of being more fake or more real? Like, right. So like back when you were single, for example, like, was it like, did you have that debate?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I was going through when I was in university, I actually was trying to write a blog. So okay. I had a blog that I wrote, I don't know, 7 or 8 posts on, and they were all fairly like, frustrated young guy type stuff, right? And so I was reading it the other day, and yeah, that was one of the main dilemmas that I was facing, was that I felt like in order to be better accepted by people, I had to be less of an individual, less like myself. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I guess I had was a huge dilemma in my mind during sort of my early 20s. And so I was like contemplating, do I pull away from society and just become this individual, whoever that is, or do I not? Do I join and try to be more like other people? So that'll be, yeah. So yeah, totally had that.
I think I'm wondering now if that's like a common thing for people.
Maybe.
Or, I mean, guys specifically, like, is that a common stage? You go through this, like, faking it, and then you realize, like, then, like, you're in these relationships with people, whether friendships or otherwise, and you're really unhappy with it. Yeah. And you're like, this, like, why am I unhappy with this? Well, you were never yourself, so these people don't actually know you, and so they don't know what you like, and they don't know.
Yeah, I think I wonder if it's specifically guys that go through that issue, because I haven't heard of a lot of women express that problem. In fact, I've had on the Discord, there's that one girl that I've been kind of pushing her in that way, right? I've been trying to like say, if you truly are someone whose biggest desire is to be an individual, then you're gonna find it conflicts with your ability to make connections with other people. And she seems to think that's not the case. She seems to think that the more that you are authentic and the more genuine you are, the more opportunities there are for you to make connections with other people.
Right. I think it depends how extreme you get. Because my first thought when you were talking about that was like, you're right, she has to get a face tattoo.
Yeah, yeah.
But a face tattoo does exclude you from being friends with a lot of people.
Yeah, true.
And so right. You're right on that. But I think I don't know. I do think she's right in the sense that like especially in your, like, because of trying to make friends in like your 30s especially, right? You've dealt with so many relationships by that time. You kind of know how to suss out bullshit and whatever, right? Yeah. And so like the people that are kind of faking or hiding, they seem so different than the people that are totally authentic and there. Do you know what I mean? Like, they are less attractive to be around and talk to, and yeah.
Yeah, I think when you hit your 30s, 2 things happen, or actually maybe more than 2. But one, you've already gone through that phase, right? You've had that struggle where you try to decide what parts of my personality can I express and what parts do I have to kind of tamp down. And maybe to the point when you hit your 30s, the parts of you that weren't fitting with society and with the community, they're just not there anymore. So you feel like you're acting authentic and genuine, but you just have forgotten that part of you that just wasn't fitting well, right?
Right. Or you're better at hiding it.
Yeah, true.
Or you have some outlet for it. You've found an outlet that's
Yeah.
not as
Right.
right. Like I don't go around talking to everybody about kink. That's a very
Right.
like
And
it's not a
Yes, and the other thing I think that happens when you hit your 30s is that people just become more accepting of the differences in other people, right? There's not this intense need. Like I remember as being younger, and it's like things like the kind of music you listen to could even put you at odds with other people, right?
right.
Whereas now, like to me, music preferences seem trivial as hell, right? I don't care, right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends what you mean. For me, like music preferences still matters,
Really?
but I don't think it's a choice anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
I just know that I am not compatible dating someone that's into country. It's not going to work.
Yeah, see, I mean, I could though. Like I think maybe country music in particular, just because of all the social connotations around it. Like there is this kind of tension, particularly in the area that we live in, where between like sort of this urban persona and this rural persona. And so like, you know, if someone's into country music, it kind of suggests this wider cultural baggage that they might be carrying, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the music alone. If someone is just a random, you know, mid-30s urbanite and just ironically listens to country music because, you know, they just want to be different, I can be perfectly fine with that, and it won't really affect
Your
how I see
relationship,
them. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
See, and for me, like it doesn't matter if it's country; it could be smooth jazz. Like anything that affects my feeling negatively,
Yeah.
can't do it. So it's like that's why I'm very opinionated about it. You know.
Oh, so you're saying it's more about the emotion?
Yeah, my current partner, like her music, she listens to super depressing shit. It's just
Yeah.
like no. Like when we're together, we're listening to like my happy shit. Like I learned like 3 or 4 years ago, you know, what you take in really does affect how your brain is, right? So it's like if you're taking in depressing music 24/7, you're gonna be depressed. Like it's just
Well, maybe for some people that's how it goes. I mean, I find if I'm listening to depressing music, it's kind of like releasing that depression or that sadness, right? It's kind of like saying, okay, you can let this go now because someone else out there feels it too or something. I don't know. I don't really know how it works.
okay. Well, just like drugs, we've learned drugs
Right.
do different things to you. Music clearly does too.
Well,
For this specific person, I should say, what I'm saying is when they listen to depressing music, it's more like how I listen to depressing music, which was to fuel a more depressing episode.
I have a hard time understanding the notion that someone would listen to depressing music to feel worse, to feel more sad. That's, to me, that is just, I mean, I guess maybe if you have some kind of sadness that you want to work on and you feel like you aren't fully processing it, you might use depressing music to put you into that headspace so you can work through it, right? But the ultimate goal is to work through it. It's not to constantly assault yourself with depressing music to remain in a state of malaise or melancholy, right?
Right, but I think you're missing a key incentive, which is attention. So like when you're younger, right? Like think about it. Like the people that were getting attention, there's always that like one person at a party that's kind of like, oh, that person's sad. We need to go check on them, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, that's one incentive to always listen to depressing music and shit like that, is you always get the attention that people are worried about you or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
know?
So, okay. That's a good point. So if someone is doing that, then yeah, that to me is someone I might not connect with, but that is just, it's not the music itself. It's sort of the deeper personality disorder that's causing them to listen to that music, right?
But it's right. I see what you're saying, but I think it's just it helps perpetuate. Like, I wish I could remember what a psychologist told me about how anxiety and depression like turn into cycles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I think when you listen to depressing music, it just keeps you in that cycle, and it's just kind of, it feels good to feel like, I honestly like, so like I used to have a brain that worked like that, right? I can't remember how it worked, but like it felt good to listen to terrible music, but the goal was definitely not to release emotion. It was, I think it was just connecting with lyrics. I don't, maybe there was no point at all, right? Like, it's just connecting to something that feels good.
Yeah, but I mean, it depends. It's really hard to talk about because there's, like, for one thing, a lot of the music that I listen to, people will say is depressing. But when I listen to it, it doesn't sound depressing at all. Like, I had a buddy that, because I listen to a lot of electronic ambient type stuff, right? It's a lot of music from virtually any kind of noise source, right? It's not tied to like a guitar or something like that. And so I had a friend who we shared, our musical tastes were very similar, but if something had a piano in it, to him it was depressing music. It's like he just couldn't do anything that had piano sounds in it, right?
That's hilarious.
And I didn't feel that way at all, right?
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is, so I don't know if there was that factor, but also at the same time, sometimes depressing music for me, it just makes me feel like, oh, someone else out there feels this way. I don't have to feel so bad about it, right?
I had this very discussion recently about the whole, when people like that whole way of trying to empathize with someone by saying like, oh, I've been through what you've been through. Always hated that.
Oh,
Always
yeah.
hated that.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's meant to make you feel like, as you said, like, it's like, well, if everybody feels this, no big deal, right?
Yeah.
But if you're desperately wanting to be a unique person, it's like, what? No way, man. I'm a unique person.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't really expect your emotions to be like that unique, right? Like, oh, I'm sad. I'm so sad that nobody else has ever been as sad as I've been at this moment. Like, that's never going to happen, right?
Right, but you're like, this is like the mind of a stupid 16-year-old. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm 36 now. It's not.
Right. But I mean, I've known people who kind of had that perspective, though, right? It's like every emotion they felt, it's like they had to try to explain to me or whomever that it's much worse than what people typically feel about a certain circumstance, right? Yeah. They're like, oh, I can't handle, like someone said this. A lot of times it's usually about like a job. They're like, oh, I can't handle this, having a boss tell me what to do. It really affects me in this certain way. And then you say, well, yeah, everybody feels that way, right? Mm-hmm. It's not, you're not special. You're not overly triggered by having an authority figure tell you what to do. It triggers us all, and we just suppress it, and we just die a little inside and go about our days with a little less soul or whatever, right?
I know, but what this person would argue, which is what I would argue, right? Because I'm basically a person with oppositional defiance disorder
Right.
is like, no, you don't get it. Like I can't back down from like when someone like starts belittling, it's like it's
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
It's just like, no, I'm gonna lose my job. I'll call them a cunt immediately. It'll be done. You know,
Right.
like
Right. That is. I think that's actually what they said. Yeah, opposition. No, they didn't. They didn't say oppositional defiance disorder. That sounds a lot more legit. They said something about like oppression. They called it like oppression something, that they just, whenever they see oppression, it's like they have to
oh yeah,
they have
okay.
to do something about it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
they can't
not act on it.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard this before. I wish I could remember what that is too.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, that's always it's been a huge question in my mind. Do people experience emotions differently than I do? Are they more intense in some circumstances? It's like
Yes.
it's impossible, but it's impossible to say, right?
It's impossible to say, but like if Vegas was to put odds on the chances of me or you destroying property,
Yeah.
one of us is going to have way better odds.
Yeah, but that's a behavior, right? That's not an emotion,
No.
right?
That's letting your emotions take control.
Right, but what my question is more, is the emotion itself more intense for you? Like, sure,
I see what you're saying.
your behavioral reaction might be more intense, but is the emotion itself, like, one of the things that really bothers me is someone who's kind of introverted, who generally doesn't display my emotions, is people often assume I'm just not feeling them. Right? Like they don't think I have strong emotional reactions to things because I don't act them out, right? And that kind of bothers me, because I feel things just as much as you do, right? It's just
So you didn't like when I assert you're a robot all the time.
Well, I mean, like I'm a robot. I'm fine with the
I mean,
label.
I'm obviously being facetious about it.
Right.
Like, I imagine that someone that just is fully like a thinker can just think through the emotion better.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like,
Or does it get clouded?
no, it's like if you're the kind of person that thinks more than they feels, as you were, it's not really like that. It's you're still feeling the emotions just as strong. It's that you're trying to not let your emotions dictate your actions, right? You're trying to act in accordance with what you think is the right way to act, right?
Oh, okay.
That's the difference. It's like, I don't know, but I mean, it's kind of like asking, do you and I both perceive blue the same way? It's like you can never really tell, right? I don't know if my emotions are weaker or stronger than someone else's. They might be. I might feel things with less intensity. It's
I wonder if there's been like someone that's tried to prove the intensity of feeling.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how did someone prove borderline personality? Like, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Prove that I feel like stuff is, there's an impulse control thing, right?
Yeah, but I think we're so, like, the science is just so much in its infancy for that sort of stuff that we really don't know. Like I don't know if you've ever gone to the doctor with a psychiatric complaint, to like depression or ADHD or a mood disorder like bipolar, and seeing the diagnostic process, and it's basically a questionnaire, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know about bipolar because I don't have that,
Mm-hmm.
but particularly with depression, like I've gone to the doctor complaining of depression, and it's not like I went through an MRI machine or anything, right? It was just like,
as you were saying,
do
it's
you
an
feel
underwhelming
this?
process.
Yeah, it's like, do you feel this? Okay, do you feel this? Boom, here is some powerful
Mood stabilizer.
that are actually gonna fuck you up. At least in my case, they were awful.
Yeah.
So I think we're not really at a place where we can have any objective measure of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
At least not easily. Like maybe, yeah, you can do an MRI on a person and see stuff about it, but it's not, you can't go to the doctor and get that done, right?
And you're also still not going to know what that feels like. So you'll
Yeah.
see it on MRI, like zones flashing, whatever, but it's like,
Yeah, well, we're kind of skirting onto the what's called the hard problem of consciousness, right? Where it's like you can't. There's this thing in philosophy and kind of in neurology as well that says you can't see the physical correlates of a conscious experience, right? It's like you don't know what, like when you, like a computer, you could theoretically, even though what you see on your screen is kind of virtual, you could go into the chip and see the electrons moving around and know, okay, that translates to what's on the screen. But apparently when it comes to conscious experience, we don't have that same capacity. It's like
to break it down.
Yeah, you can't say, okay, this neuron firing right now means this person is experiencing pain.
Right.
It doesn't. At least we haven't figured it out yet, right?
Right.
So
how have they figured out that shrimp feel pain?
that shrimp feel pain?
Yeah.
Have they figured that out?
I don't know. I love spreading misinformation about pointless things. I think it's hilarious. I just love to hear like something that's, don't you love that when someone like your mom, your aunt comes to you in like 3 months and you hear about something that the internet just totally made up?
Yeah.
I love spreading those ones. So shrimp feeling might be one of those ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, consciousness is something that I spend a lot, like it's one of my big interests in life, so I think a lot about it. And as far as I know, we haven't proved that anything feels pain, right? Other than like you can know that you feel pain, right?
Yeah.
But you can't really know if anyone else does. Everyone else on the planet could be just a zombie, right?
Just lying to you.
Yeah, just a
just like, yeah, ow, hot is
exactly.
it kills.
They're acting as though they feel pain, but
Yeah.
they are not actually feeling
That
it,
would be
right?
fucking amazing.
Yeah.
See, these are the kind of things that should be TV shows.
Right.
Why is that not a TV show? I would love to see something like that. Like these real mindfuck ones where it's like it comes in like 8 weeks in, like, yeah, all the population doesn't feel except for this guy, and this guy does the most dangerous job or some shit like that.
Yeah.
You know?
For me, it's, well, I mean, it started with with thinking about like, can we transfer consciousness to a computer, for example? Could we upload our consciousness, right?
I've thought of that. I used to think about that a lot.
Yeah, that's what got me started on thinking about consciousness, and I've gone down a few rabbit holes.
It's a hopeful idea for atheists. It's like a backup plan.
Yeah, it's like it's like on Black Mirror. Did you ever watch that show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had one where when people died, they would be uploaded into this like beach town experience.
Oh, okay. I don't recall.
It was a great episode. It's probably my favorite episode, but that's kind of like the atheist heaven, right?
Mm.
To be uploaded into virtual reality when you die and live out whatever, right?
But you see, the thing for me is like it wouldn't be fun unless I could feel.
Yeah, well, you are feeling, right? In those circumstances, I mean, assuming this was possible,
Mm-hmm.
it would
feel real.
Yeah, it would
Therefore, I'd feel pain.
Yeah, as real as reality, right?
Right. Because we can imagine, like, people can get hypnotized basically to feel more pain than they're feeling. Right. Like when it's like, oh, your elbow's touching a hot whatever.
Yeah.
Although I think most hypnotism has been proven to be bullshit, right?
I haven't really looked much into hypnotism, but probably. But
I should have got my roommate to do it. He got really into it for a few years. I should have got him to do it to me because then, like, I'm the ultimate skeptic. So it's like,
oh yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of hypnotists will just say some people can't be hypnotized, right? That's kind of their out.
Like religious people.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's bullshit.
Right.
That's always how you know it's bullshit.
But I guess if you want to think about, instead of hypnotism, you can think about sleeping, right? Like you're in a lot of pain right now. At some points you do go to sleep. When you're asleep, you're not feeling that pain, right?
Well, that's a good question. I think you are feeling the pain because otherwise you wouldn't wake up.
Yeah, well, you are that's the whole thing with consciousness, right? Is you're having the actual like what's called I think the term is nociception. It's kind of a weird word. It's hard to pronounce, but basically what it means is the sensory data is still being sent up to your brain. Your brain is still aware of the pain, but you're not having the conscious subjective experience of feeling the pain, right?
Oh, okay. So it registers, but it's not like it doesn't register like it would if you were conscious.
Yeah. So it's like, I remember there was I used to go to this philosophy discussion group. This is the only time this has ever happened. Maybe it's happened to me a few times before, but we were having a discussion about consciousness, and I said pain doesn't have to hurt, right? And this lady got up and said, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Right? That's what she said. And I was like, holy.
Why was she so fired up?
I don't know, but
I love when you just push someone's butt. Like you had no idea this landmine was waiting. Anyways, continue.
So, I mean, I think that accurately explains this, the idea is like there's pain and then there's hurt, right? Pain is the sense data that's being sent to your brain. And then hurt is the subjective experience that you're having, which is,
oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's
never broken it down like that.
That's how I was trying to explain it in this circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it didn't come across, but.
And so what was your original point? Pain is what did she think was stupid?
In that circumstance, I don't know what I was trying to explain at the time.
No, but what did you say? Pain
doesn't have to hurt.
Pain doesn't have to hurt. It's pretty true. Like, especially like if you know, for example, like I sawed my hand open, right? Mm-hmm. At no point did I feel pain.
Right.
There's no pain in that experience. It wasn't until days later, right? That you're like opening the wound and cleaning it that you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Right? But like that's I knew freaking out wouldn't do anything. I've gone into like I have a crazy adrenaline mode, right?
Right.
I know this is how I react to stuff. But also you have no incentive to be screaming your mind off.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in the situation that you're referring to, you're talking about a situation where you're kind of in shock a little bit, or there's just a massive amount of endorphins going through your system so that you don't feel the pain, right? And it's not until you've calmed down that you're like, oh shit, this hurts a lot, right?
Yeah, like it definitely was shocked because I just remember like I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah.
It's like it just sawed my own hand open. How does that happen? Like it's the classic like any framing injury was always like that was so preventable. Like my friend sawed into my finger, could have easily taken off like all four of my fingers, and we looked at each other and he's my boss. He's just like, that was so fucking stupid. He's like, that was so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
He's like, that was so fucking stupid. We're never doing that again. That was so stupid.
I'm so glad I don't do that kind of work. I remember having to just like throw pieces of scrap metal off the back of a truck one time. And I remember grabbing a piece and it had like a sharp edge. And as I threw it, the sharp edge just grabbed my arm and just slit like right down. And I was just like gushing blood.
Yeah.
And then like, for some reason, like, I mean, it wasn't so bad that like I was, starting to pass out or anything, but it was bleeding a lot. And then one of the guys like, oh, you should probably go clean that up or something. And so I go into this dirtiest fucking washroom you've ever seen in your life. The kind that just has that like weird green soap thing that
I know
you're
exactly
just
what you're talking about.
yeah, and that's what I had to use to disinfect this thing, and I'm just like, ugh,
You're like,
I
this is
hate
getting
this job.
infected for sure. Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
and the weird thing about those jobs is when you think about it, right? You're like, you're just grabbing stuff and throwing it. How do you hit your leg and your arms and what? It fucking constantly happens.
Yeah.
You come home with so many bruises and nicks and cuts and scrapes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, I don't know. Office work kind of sucks for its own reasons, but at least there's not that issue. So
I forget which show it was. I think it was Office Space. Made me want to be in the corporate world so bad.
oh yeah,
Something about the humor of it was some show about the corporate humor, and I was like, I wish I was part of that world. It's so bland and boring and hilariously like.
Yeah, well,
Go talk to HR. Like I love the like I don't know anything about that world. I've always just been dumb guys show up, lift shit, right?
Right.
So I can't imagine like having these inner conflicts at work where you're trying to get promoted before Daryl and like.
Well, one I remember when we're talking about on-site injuries. I remember we used to have this like safety moment at where I work now in our team meetings, right? Where it's like every week we'd have a team meeting and someone would have to like highlight a possible safety risk and how we could deal with it, right? But we work in a fucking office, right? So it's like every week we're just trying to come up with
a ninja will kick in the window.
Right.
What do we do?
Yeah, like when it was my week, all I said was like, sometimes when you're leaving the washroom, someone might open the door as you're
coming
leaving
in. Oh my god.
and hit you or something, right? And it's like they have no clue what kind of risks you face in like actual.
I wonder about the amount of hours that are wasted on shit like that all the time. Like I'm just like, how many years of like lost productivity are spent in those kind of meetings where like safety meetings or like I forget what ours was. Ours was like our boss, my friend would walk over and be like, all right, cranes and harnesses are dangerous. This is all what we're smoking and whatever. And he's like, all right, safety meeting concluded.
Well, I think in particular with office work, the reason why there's so much what we would consider wasted time is because we don't really need to be there for 40 hours every week, right? Like I would still be valuable to my company just because of what I now know, like the experience I have and the systems that I work with, that I would, if I only came in 3 days of the week, they would still find me a valuable person, but they want me there all the time. So it's like inevitably pointless shit is going to use up the rest of the time, right?
Oh, I know. As you said that, I was like, that reminds me of like when me and my brother worked at BP's. It's like we were valuable to them to just come in for 2 hours every morning to make the dough, right?
Right.
But they wanted to fucking keep us there all day because we were too good at making dough, right? It's like, just let us go home and pay us more for those 2 fucking hours. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like I really feel like we need to shift how people or how companies compensate for work. It should be more about what do we want you to do, right? It's like, okay, we need you to make dough. We need you to make this amount of dough, excuse me, however long it takes you. If it takes you 15 minutes to make all this dough, or if it takes you 4 hours, you're getting paid the same amount because we're paying you to make X amount. Done, right? Yeah. Like that's how maybe it should work, so that in circumstances like myself where I can get stuff done faster than other people, then I shouldn't have to be there all the time, right?
So why don't companies like say to you, why don't you just come in 3 days a week and we'll hire another guy to work the other 2 days? Like, wouldn't that be more productive?
Well, I think it's just I think it's just something that nobody's ever tried. So no, like the kind of place where I work isn't kind of like big on the let's revolutionize the way office work is done, right? Like that's not their thing. They just want to sort of keep things going the way they've always gone, and
Right.
it's worked this way. 40 hours a week seems to work, so why should we?
These plebs seem okay with it. They seem to still be
Right.
buying houses and cars,
Exactly.
coming to
It's-
work.
We can't get a better deal somewhere else, so fuck it. They're gonna just do it this way, right? So
I was thinking the other day, what if I ban myself from having any negative thoughts or opinions? So if I share like any future thought like that, like a negative future thought, what if I just say I can't? I'm not allowed to say it.
yeah.
What happens to your brain if you literally never allow it to have negative thoughts?
Well, that's sort of I mean, so it's kind of like certain meditation techniques. I mean, most meditation techniques, they sort of teach you to observe the thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
So don't shut it down, just note it, but don't participate in the thought. Like, oh, this is a negative thing that my brain is thinking right now. Don't let that sort of become a spiral of negativity. You just sort of let it pass, like a cloud or something passing
Mm-hmm.
by. I don't know if what happens if you actively try to suppress all of that. I don't think it's probably not healthy. That's all I'll say. I don't know.
And I don't mean don't acknowledge it. So
Yeah.
like I don't mean that like toxic positivity thing.
Right.
I just mean to say like one of the ways that I stopped having like suicidal ideation, for example, was not allowing myself to indulge in all these fantasies of like, because one of the things is like you start to think like, how could I do it?
Mm-hmm.
How can I get away with it without anybody
Right.
having an issue? Right. And I just finally was like, hey, you're not allowed to have that thought anymore. Like when you start to have that thought, you shut it down. It's just like stop. Like it's either CBT or DBT technique to say
Yeah.
like stop and like replace it with a new thought, basically.
Right.
And like that worked quite well. And so I'm just wondering if you do that to every negative thing. So it's not that you don't have negative thoughts, but it's like instead of sharing. So like if you're talking about Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
and I have knowledge that like Bitcoin's for sure going to be terrible and be destroyed in 2 years, do I need to share that with you? I've always
Yeah.
felt the need to, but what if I start censoring myself to never share any negative? The same as my online policy. Like that's my online policy.
So you're saying, well, there's a difference between like preventing yourself from even thinking the negative thought and just choosing not to share it, right? Like which one of those are you?
Well, you're ultimately trying to shut down both.
Yeah, well, if you're not having the thought, you're obviously not going to share it, right?
Yes. But the first step is shutting down it's going to take a while to train your thoughts to stop coming in, right?
Yeah.
And so the first step is keeping your mouth shut. So you still have your thoughts, but you're still working on telling your thoughts to shut up. It's like, it's like stop.
Yeah, well, either way.
Until they kind of stop happening, and then you don't need to focus on
Yeah, so what my perspective on that would be is that you have negative thoughts for a reason, right? Like I don't believe you should try to shut them all down. I think obviously you can have thoughts that are I don't know what the term is, maladaptive or whatever, and they cause you to think about suicide or all these other things. I think, yeah, you want to try to stop those kind of thoughts, but you don't want to shoot everything down because, yeah, maybe Bitcoin does suck and you shouldn't invest in it. And your negative thought is actually trying to warn you against a poor investment, right?
Yeah, that might not have been the best example to use, but
well, I mean,
because that's one I would share with somebody for sure.
Yeah,
because it's like I want to warn friends about their potential downfall, right? Especially financial, right?
Right.
So it's like all these people pushing Dogecoin and stuff. It's like, okay, guys, like, I hope you're having fun with this, but I hope you're doing it with like less than $400. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, even so, that's a very particular circumstance because you're talking about what might happen in the future, right? Like you can be a lot more objective about thoughts that are about the past or the present, right? Than you can, because yeah, maybe Bitcoin is a bad investment, maybe it's not. We don't really know, right? So that one in particular, it's hard to judge how valid of a thought it is. But one of the things that I always found weird, like I remember doing like some self-esteem workshop, and they were talking about self-worth, right? And they were just describing self-worth as something that you have as like your base, and it's not contingent on anything in your life. Your self-worth isn't based on how much money you make or how nice of a car you drive or how many friends you have or anything like that, right? And to me, I was like, well, that sounds fine, but it's like that means that someone who's like a serial killer could have a high self-worth, right? Like there's got to be.
I think they do have a high self-worth.
Yeah, but it's to me, it's like there's got to be some external evidence which tells you that you're not a good person, right? Because there are people out there that in my mind, are objectively bad people, and so not everybody should feel okay with just having this sort of unjustified self-worth, right? That was always a problem I had with like this sort of bedrock of like psychiatric therapy towards self-esteem, right? I don't know how you feel about that particular.
I don't particularly know what you're talking about, the bedrock of.
Well, self-worth in general, right?
No, but what do you mean by the bedrock of psychiatry or?
I wouldn't say it's the bedrock of psychiatry, but it's like when I went through this self-esteem workshop, it's like at near the end of it was like an 8-week course, or I don't know if you call it a course or group therapy or whatever it was. It was like 8 weeks. I'd go once a week and we would discuss self-esteem and all of this stuff, right? And so near the end, they were like, okay, so we're getting near the end here. Are there any concepts that anyone here is still struggling with or wants us to go over again? So I said, yeah, I basically explained self-worth to them in the way I did you right now. And they basically said, well, that's kind of the basis of this whole thing. If you haven't got that, then all the rest of this is not going to work at all, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I wasted 8 weeks then, because that still seems like bullshit to me, right?
What part of it seems like bullshit?
The idea that you can just have self-worth without anything, without any other external factor changing how you feel about yourself.
But back to your consciousness thing, like it's like the meditation thing. It's like you only exist, like the world is only to you, like it only matters to you ultimately.
Right.
So like to have high self-worth, we know just allows you this kind of freedom to live your life the way you want to live. And ultimately, aren't you just trying to live the way you're trying to live?
Yeah, but there are people out there that are pieces of shit, and they need to be brought down a few pegs and say, oh, maybe I'm not a good person and I should change. Right?
But why do they need to?
Well, like someone who say beats their children and their wife or something, but feels amazing because they have this like solid self-worth, right? It's like they need some way of saying, holy shit, the things that I'm doing are awful.
Yeah.
Right. And I need to
in a
change.
perfect world. But like if coming back to the philosophy thing, like the self-worth thing, it's like, does that guy need to have more perspective that like says like, okay, maybe I'm not great as a dad if I'm beating my kids every day. Like maybe I could improve. Or is it about other people checking him? Like, do you think it needs to be the person themselves checking their own?
Yeah, I think you need a measure. I think you need a way of taking stock of how good a person you are ultimately. It can't just start from a place of I'm the best person I could possibly be right now.
Mm-hmm.
It has to come from yes, I am a good person, but only because of the good things that I've done with my life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But I think that is where I struggle with it, because I'm kind of like, if we're here for no reason, right? Which is kind of what I believe. Like, I don't know what we're here for, but like, if we're here for basically no reason, you only have one life. We know there's no do-overs. Why not live with extreme confidence, extreme self-worth, live whatever way you want, even though society doesn't agree with it, as long as everything continues to go good for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily a case, at least for me, of how it should or should not be. For me, it's just like I see other people out there that to me they're not worthy people. They're not good people. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like that there's got to be a way for me to distinguish myself from that person. And it's like that distinguishing factor should be the thing which gives me self-worth. Right? That's the way I would look at it.
Do you know anything about this David Dobrik kid?
No.
Damn it. I was gonna say, it's just funny to me, because like what we're talking about, he is a guy that he's a huge YouTuber, young, with really young people, and
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay.
puts out like scripted pranks and I don't know, other horse shit that would not entertain you at all.
Yeah.
Anyways, when I first learned of this dude, there was just something about him I didn't like. Like, he was on like a podcast or something I was watching, and I just didn't like him.
Mm.
And like, fast forward to now, there's like all these scandals and shit out about him. I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's the same with the James Charles dude. It's like, it's weird. I feel like a weird savant sometimes,
You
like
have
where I'm
this-
just like,
Yeah.
just a matter of time till that dude's scandal, like certain people. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, well, you've said that before, that you have a good read on people, right?
Yeah, but I still don't trust it. That's the thing. I'm always needing to ask one other person's validation to be like, "Hey, am I crazy? Like,
Yeah.
is this shit happening? Like, is this person really doing what?" Because there's so many scenarios that my mind creates that aren't real in general.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I perceive everything as being more sinister than it is. Like, if someone's unloading a car at night, it's like, is it a body? Like, that's where my brain goes right off the start. It's not like, oh, they went shopping for groceries at 10.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like I remember I was watching this documentary the other day about the Bikram yoga guy. Are you familiar with?
I couldn't watch it because that there's just certain topics I can't watch, and that one sounded like it was gonna be super rapey, and I was like, I'm not into that.
Oh yeah, but the way they structured it is like they kind of were giving, they were showing a lot of what this Bikram guy was saying about his practice. He was sort of giving the history of how he came to America and how he built up his practice, right? And I straight up, like, this was like the first 5-10 minutes of the movie. I was like, this sounds like bullshit, right? Like, it immediately didn't ring true to me. Like, he said he taught Richard Nixon yoga, and as a thank you, Richard Nixon gave him a green card, right? I was like, that's fucking bullshit, right? And then, like, in the latter half of the movie, as like a big surprise, they reveal all the things that he was lying about, right?
And you're
and
like,
I was like, yeah, all that stuff was garbage, of course, right?
But that goes back to the cult thing, right? Like, I'm always fascinated. Like, how do these guys, like, how is there that blind spot for people to miss those signals? What happens?
Right. And that got me thinking about that. And what it is, particularly with like pathological liars, because I've known a few people in my life that were like this, right? And I've known pathological liars who tell me stuff that's so obviously bullshit, and I see right through it, but then I look around and no one else seems to see it. Right? Everyone else seems to buy into it completely. And I was like, Why is that the case? And what I realized is that some lies are so ridiculous that people believe them because there's no reason for someone to tell such a ridiculous lie, right?
Whereas I'm like immediately follow up with details.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about when Nixon put his cigar down to fucking do yoga with you. You fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, but that's like, I worked with a guy who claimed that he was like, he came in like second or third in like the national kickboxing championship, right?
Why is it always that?
I don't know.
It's literally always kickboxing.
Always kickboxing. Because it sounds like a thing that there's probably a kickboxing championship out there that we just don't know about, right? But I mean, it was so obviously like I remember we had to move some boxes in the basement. Like there was a delivery that had to get moved, and like we were moving these boxes, and the guy's legs were shaking like after the second box. Like he was so out of shape, and it's like there's no fucking way that you came anywhere close.
You don't think he worked out that day?
No.
And then he came in, and then he was like, "Oh, my legs are already shaking, bro."
Yeah.
No,
but yeah, it's like that kind of lie is just ridiculous enough that people are not going to question it, right?
See, I'm curious to know how you handle it, because like even with a stranger, I'm the person that's just like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like I absolutely call those people, like I'm the person that's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And like, you know, because I can't tolerate it. Like I can't listen to it for more than a minute. So I'm calling it out immediately, and they're like, "You don't believe me, bro?" It's like, "No, I don't believe you."
Yeah, see, I should be like that. See, I don't, because in my mind I dismiss it so easily. I assume everyone else is as well, right? I don't
assume everyone else is doing what?
Everyone else, like if someone is saying something like that, say to like a group of people, it's like I don't think to call them on it, because I just assume everyone knows that this is bullshit, and we're all just gonna tell the guy to fuck off eventually, right? Like it doesn't. If in my mind I thought he was actually convincing other people that this was true, then I would be like you. Yeah, I would need to call him on it.
Yeah.
But I just habitually think that everyone else is in on it and knows that it's bullshit, right?
Right. I have such impulse control problems around people wasting my time. Like that's one thing that I just absolutely snap at. Which is ironic, because I am the least busy person, you know, right? But if you hold me up for even a second with like terrible conversation, anything, it's the most egregious offense that's happened to me like this week. I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking to me about? Why are you spending this time talking to me, lying to me? Mm-hmm. Like, let me know who you are. Tell me about your lame Pokemon or whatever the fuck. Why are you lying to me about being a It doesn't make me think, oh wow, I'll have a kickboxing friend. How cool is it? Like,
I know. I don't know. I should be
catfishing.
more...
I don't understand the final goal. Like you're not gonna get the person to be like, wow.
But that's the thing, right? It's because there is no perceived advantage to making that lie. That's why people don't question it, right?
What? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that is like if the Bikram yoga guy says that he gave Richard Nixon a yoga class and he got his green card as a gift from it, it's like it doesn't change how you. It doesn't change that person's like. It's not like that person is getting anything out of you because of that. Right? Like he probably already has a green card anyways, right? There's no seemingly motive to that deception, right? So that's what
I mean, but there is to me. That's like a classic, like, oh, I hang with famous people and I've known famous people.
Yeah, but like, so what, right?
No, but I'm saying that's how like those like yoga Bikram dudes like influence themselves in LA and shit, is like being like, I know these powerful people, and then you have Gwyneth Paltrow and shit being like, this dude's my personal whatever.
Yeah, and so definitely in a situation like Hollywood or something, that probably is a lie that has material benefit to it. But to me, like if you told me right now that you knew Steven Seagal, it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh really? Okay, well can you here's $500. Can you go give it to Steven Seagal or something? Like there's no way you can take advantage of me by making that lie, right? So I would just assume it's true, because why else would you say it, right?
Because to me, it's like people always lie for prestige. I think the reason, I think honestly the reason like lying triggers me like so hard to have such a snapback reaction is I remember I used to lie quite a bit growing up. Like that was a thing. Like, and I remember at some point it just switched, and it's just like I was too honest with people, you know, like it was recalibrating the other way, because it's like, okay, you gotta hold shit back. You can't be like, oh, I'm not enjoying this date, I don't like your face. It's like, okay, you can lie sometimes, you know. Right.
Yeah, there's definitely some lies that are okay, for sure.
Absolutely. You tell them all the time. If you keep track, you'll realize everybody fucking lies all the time.
Right. That's true. I think to me, it's always been, if the lie doesn't influence the other person's behavior, then it's okay, right?
I mean, it does in a way. You tell a lie to keep someone from keying your car.
If it doesn't influence their behavior in a way that is harmful to them, then it's okay.
Yes. That, like, telling them a lie, like, you know, that like a senior like I used to volunteer with, right? Like she started getting scammed a lot at the end. She was obviously being lied to by people, you know, that were just like, this supplement will keep your brain healthy till you're 140 and shit like that, right? So that's for sure a harmful one.